Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Let me see. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's all right. We've got a few minutes before you guys are on. Okay, welcome. So we're only starting 2 minutes late. Yay. I know it's Friday night and you all are here basically doing a job interview. And so thank you, because it's work and it's important work. And so thank you for being here. So my name is Anna Carvlin. I am a member of this church and I'm a member of the Social Justice Committee. And we'll have Ken Small introduce the church because I know some of you have never been here before. So we'll start with that. He's the board president of this church.
All right, thank you. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a tour of our wonderful castle, but I hope you can. Is this on? Yeah. Okay. I hope you can see it. And as many of you know, with the enormous help of the community, we repaired the turrets, which are way 2 stories up there, which were in danger of cracking and falling down, and they're made of limestone, so that would not be a good thing. I just want to welcome you all, and on behalf of the church, I'm delighted that we're able to host an event that's promoting democracy, we hope promoting good policing, promoting the city of Chicago. And I, like Anna, thank you all for being here and being part of our democracy. And I thank all of the panelists who are here for the same reason and for being willing to do hard work that, as Anna said, you're being interviewed for, in a sense. Anna didn't mention, she's also a member of Southsiders for Peace, which is the co-sponsor. So she's a kind of a, she's got every qualifications you could ask. And I particularly thank her for being willing to organize this and be a moderator. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not really a member of Southsiders for Peace. I just like what they do a lot, and I tend to collaborate a lot and go to their events. So I'm going to invite Mark Keener, who is a member of Southsiders for Peace and who can tell you a little bit about some events coming up and what you guys do.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's wonderful to see all of you here today. Thank you so much for showing the interest in the community to be here, to members of the public, to the candidates. Thank you so much for being here. The Southsiders for Peace was organized in 2002 in response to the ramp up to the war in Iraq. So we've been working on issues of war and peace ever since then. We've been working on social justice issues like the environment, the economy, and racism. So if you're free to sign up on our email list, you can stay in touch with events that we have going on. Just want to remind you that we have 2 bathrooms out here, and if those are filled, there's more of them upstairs. There's a stairway here and then one on the other side of that wall. And we do have a basket in the back that lots of people have already found. It's overflowing with cash already. So if you would like to make a donation, that proceeds goes to the Southsiders for Peace and half goes to the church. It's a custom that we've had in place for many, many years. We're especially happy to be here at this event tonight because Tuesday we got big news for a campaign we were involved with over in Oak Lawn, that 17-year-old boy was brutally beaten by the police there. And the city said that the police were following their procedures, and a bunch of the members of the community were protesting, saying that you should never beat a 17-year-old boy and put him in the hospital. So we're happy to announce that on Tuesday, charges were actually filed against one of those police officers for giving that boy a concussion. So couple other events that we have coming up in the near future are in March. It's kind of a bang bang. We didn't really plan it this way, but we got news earlier this week that the ambassador to the United States from Cuba will be here in Chicago on the 23rd and the 24th of March. So we're working with a bunch of other coalition partners to throw some public meetings to meet with the Cuban ambassador. So we're not sure yet where it is. They're talking about some big the churches in the area, and doing a second program on the north side as well. So we'll have more information about that coming out. And then on Saturday, the 25th of March, we'd already scheduled to have an event here on the subject of anti-Semitism. But this is very big, important issue. We've seen lots of terrible, horrible examples of anti-Semitic violence and hatred. So we want to have a program digging into some of those issues. So again, welcome to everybody, and hope we have an enjoyable program.
Okay. So again, thank you for coming. We have a history of hosting candidates here. We've had Obama at this dais. We've had Lori Lightfoot. Anyone else want to shout out some names? Okay, Marie Newman. I mean, I think I think we're open to fostering that kind of sometimes hard debate, and hopefully that's a good thing. So I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Am I forgetting anything? Okay, you guys got water, you're good. Okay, so these questions, so we're at 7:09. Good, we're on time. I love being on time. These questions, I went to a couple of forums. I got questions from there. I also came up with some questions, and I got feedback from the community that I'm involved in. So hopefully it's enough feedback that it's good enough questions. Also, the candidates got the questions in advance, so they had some preparation time. And if they had to get clarification, they were able to get that from me. So if you don't understand a question, they were able to get feedback from me if they didn't understand. So let's begin. We're not starting with questions. We are going to begin with an opening about the ECPS, which is the most important part of this. And I am so happy that I had the honor to meet Reverend Damon Smith at the previous forum. I was very lucky because I actually went to an event online who Indivisible in Hyde Park hosted, and they had questions from Frank Chapman, and he was able to give an overview. And then She Votes Illinois had another event. I went to that, and Reverend Damon Smith attended that. And I just was so taken by what he had to say. And also, he's literally the person you want to talk to if you want to talk to about this ordinance. So I was lucky enough. Am I right? Okay, right. And so I was lucky enough to bump into him at the previous forum at BAPA, and he agreed to come here and give you all an overview about the ordinance. And so after that, we'll do the questions for the candidate. I'm sorry? Yeah, so, okay. All right, so I wanted to welcome Reverend Damon Smith, who is a city employee. He works for the city of Chicago now, and it's a new office. So the Deputy Director of District Councils is the title for the office. And so you're going to give an overview of what the office does and the history of this ordinance and why we're all here today electing new people to this office. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Well, Anna, you liked being on time, but let's see, I'm a Southern Baptist, Presbyterian, Irish Catholic high school graduate. So your timeline's now shot. Forget about it. You're done. So thank you so much for having me here. Greatly appreciate it. Also, thank you to the Unitarians who have brought us here tonight. Thank you so much. I bring greetings from my good friend Colleen Vahey from the West Side Third Unitarian, as well as Scott Ainsley as well from the West Side, from Oak Park. I have lots of friends in the Unitarian Church. So that's another reason why we're going to be here all night. So hate to tell you that. First and foremost, you all did your thank yous. There's one I have to give because Lee mentioned it earlier. I've been crisscrossing the city, going to as many of these events as possible to meet as many candidates and also to make sure that the public knows what this ordinance is really all about. And in order to do that, I have to have permission to do that. So I want you all to give a great thank you to my wife, Kimberly, who gives me permission to cross the city on Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays, to attend these events. And she says it's okay because we need better, improved relationships with law enforcement. She is a federal law enforcement officer herself. So you can just about imagine some of the conversations that we have over the course of these. God, if I could tell you leave, then we'd have to kill you, but that's all right. So again, sweetheart, thank you so much. Let's try to figure this out. The Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance came about in 2021, was enacted in 2021. Why did this ordinance come to be? We have COPA, we have the police board, we have BIA, the Bureau of Internal Affairs, we have the superintendent's office, we have all these agencies that do oversight and accountability of the police department. Why do we need another one? Well, this one is different that the concerns, the relationships, the investigations, the questions start with you, from the community. They come from the community. Not only do they come from the community, the police superintendent, district commanders, COPA, the police board, all must respond to these questions, ideas, concepts, suggestions, edits, removals, initiations, whatever the community comes up with. They must respond in kind. And not just saying, oh, we'll take that under consideration. They must do what the community says in a scope of oversight and authority. Those will come from the community. Well, why is that important? We believe, the ordinance says that we believe that the community knows how policing should work in their community. It's localized. There are 22 police districts across the city of Chicago. Every district should not be policed the same and will not be, but everyone should have the same expectation of quality policing and safety. And that's what this ordinance will ensure. By having individuals elected to office, not endorsing anyone, I am not, but you all will elect representatives from your police district whose jobs it will be to build trust, relationships, create brand new initiatives, put more funding and more bodies behind initiatives that are already working, possibly even look at general orders of the police department, look at technologies of the police department, right along with the police department, so that everyone understands what policing looks like now, what it should look like, what needs to change. And also the community can be better informed on what policing is and how it is supposed to operate. Communities across the city of Chicago watch Chicago PD, they watch the various other criminal investigation shows, the true crime shows, and they are now experts in what policing looks like. If you ask The officers, that's not policing. Conversely, officers, for various reasons, and I'll be fair, have no relationship or reduced relationships or reduced opportunities for relationships with the communities that they serve due to a number of situations beyond their control, which then makes policing much more difficult. How do you mend that? How does the community then trust the police officers in their communities? This has been going on for 50 years, where community-based accountability has been something that's been sought for and wanted for over 50 years. Frank Chapman, you mentioned, he's been working on this for 50 years. It's now here. You, the citizens, the residents of the city of Chicago, have an opportunity to turn to those last 2 pages on your ballot. For those who are getting mail-in ballots, the last 2 pages of the little machine, when you all go in and select candidates to represent you. They will meet with the district commanders. They will meet with sergeants. They will meet with captains. They have to meet with them on a monthly basis. And you all have to come every month to tell them what's working, what's not working, what you would like to see, hear the ideas that they have to make things better, maybe hear what's not working and get that out the way, if it's possible, right? To improve policing for your district, to create new initiatives, to create social justice opportunities, to create alternative police and arresting strategies. That's going to come from you all and you all. And it's my job to manage all 66 district council members across the 22 districts across the city of Chicago. Yay. So who's the new guy? Well, see, this is how I'm going to get, this is how God works. Because I have such a stew of experiences and educations, I know how to deal with the stew that is Chicago. I don't want anyone to diminish their flavor. I want to lift up and celebrate them all. But we have to do it in a way that's equitable for everybody and for everybody. Everyone needs to go home at night when they leave, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. Last I checked, police officers were human beings. They deserve to go home too, right? So my job is to make sure that the district council members have the resources that they need. Job postings just went up today. Praise God. So I'll be hiring a staff of 8 to help me with this monumental task. That's what I'm here to do. I have copies of the ordinance with me, so if there are questions that come up tonight, I can kind of fill in cracks, but y'all should be done hearing from me because you all got a job interview to do this evening. But I am here as a resource to assist, support the district council members now and forevermore. So I thank you for your time. Am I keeping you on time, Anna? Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, you had to go there. Okay. They're going to test me. Wow. Questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, the CCPSA. Yes. Okay. So the CCPSA, can I please use the acronym for the rest of the night, please? CCPSA is the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability. Imagine what my business card looks like. That is the commission that the ordinance created, the ECPS ordinance created. And that came about because there are these 2 coalitions, one of which I was a part of, the GAPA coalition and the ECPS coalition, who had these ideas on how community policing should work. They finally realized they need to come together, they united, and then we got busy working with our alders and negotiating with our alders and our mayors and the mayor and the alders and mayors. And over a period of time, we came up with this ordinance. This ordinance created this commission because there has to be a body of oversight and administration. So we have an executive director, a deputy director for the council, which is one entity, and another entity of the commissioners and the district council. Let me go back slowly and do this. There's the commission that is comprised of 7 commissioners representing the entire city of Chicago. 2 from the north side, 2 from the south side, 2 from the west side, and 1 at large. Their job is to look at policies, special and general orders, procedures, budgets, etc., the maintenance of the Chicago Police Department. They make recommendations on things that need to be changed. They will play a role in the hiring of the next superintendent, if there should be one, in the police board leadership, and in COPA's leadership. Mandated that the administration has to adhere to the recommendations of the commission when it comes to hiring in those 3 areas. So no longer can a mayor in administration make those choices on their own by themselves. Community is going to have input. That's the commission's job. There's 7 of them. There's an interim commission that is in place now, that has been in place and has been doing work. In fact, there's a meeting next Thursday of the commission. Is it next Thursday, Lee? It is. Thank you. There we go. Daily Closet. Daily College. We just had one of Olive Harvey. They have one the last Thursday of every month, open to the public comment period, etc. So you all can come and see what they do. And they will make recommendations on policing practices as they currently are. Then you have the district councils. And that's those 66 people who will soon be elected. Their job is to do similar work at the district level. So if you think there's one house that's kind of like senators, another group that's kind of like U.S. representatives or congresspeople. You understand? That kind of makes sense? Okay. So your local representation is going to make sure that it is done correctly in your district. Period. They are required to meet, the district councils are required to meet once a month with the community, 4 times a year with all the district councils from across the city of Chicago, my job, and then once a year with the commissioners, where they will present ideas. Towards the end, that will usually happen towards the end of the year when it's the goal setting period for the police department, for COPA, and for the police board. And that plans the agenda for those 3 agencies for the following year. That's what the CCPSA is. Okay, glad you brought me to that. This is the next fun part of my job. The 7 commissioners that are there now are an interim commission that were appointed by the mayor, because the ordinance says that's what has to happen. Once all 66 district council members are in place, their first order of business would be to establish a nominating committee, one from each district of 22 people. So now it's 22 people who will then create a list of 14 names to be the next permanent commission who will serve for 4 years. Out of those 14 names, the administration has to select 7. Once those 7 are selected, they are confirmed by city council and they will start and get to work. Yes. So if the mayor does not like those names, the administration can send the names back to the district councils, come up with some more people, and we know we're going to go back and forth twice. And then after that, it's going to go to city council before they're straight out.
David,
Yes, sir.
also, as you brought up, the head of the police board, COPA, and whoever the name is submitted for superintendent.
That is correct.
Also has to be
Same process.
confirmed by the city council.
That's correct.
So that's something that we need to add.
That's correct. Whew, that's a mouthful. There was another question over here, I thought somewhere. Yes, ma'am. Damon. I am not the son of Satan. Last name is Smith. Damon Smith. Where? Question? Oh, in the back? Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Oh, Anthony. Sorry. Yes, sir. Nope. Absolutely not. So the funding of the CCPSA and the stipend that the commissioners receive and the stipend that the district council members receive are a percentage out of the current police department budget. They can't change it. It's a line item. It's in there. Done deal. No. Which also means the budget changes. Ours can never go down because we have a certain fixed number of people, right? The only way our budget, last I checked, will depend on programming that we have. But then we have some grants and some things like that to help subsidize some of those costs. Our agency, let me also make this very clear, the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability does not answer to the mayor or the administration, does not answer to the superintendent, does not answer to COPA, does not answer to the police board. So then who do we answer to? The community will tell the commission if other commissioners aren't doing their job, or if district council members aren't doing their jobs, there are mechanisms in the ordinance for that to take place. We are 100% independent. The superintendent can't change our budget line item. The mayor can't change it. No one can change it. Our staff was hired and fired, or can be fired, only by the commissioners. I'm sorry. Who, where? Yes, yes. If I answer it quickly, I'll do one more.
What is the relationship between the two entities and the existing tax structure for each has a monthly meeting?
Okay. Yes, we get that question a lot. What is the difference, or what is the relationship between CAPS and the district councils? Okay, perfect. CAPS is an entity created, managed, and funded by the Chicago Police Department. We are not. That's the first difference. It would be very smart for CAPS members to attend district council meetings. It would be very smart for district council members to attend CAPS meetings. The goal is the same. It's going to be done two different ways, with one group that's independent and one group that is, I don't want to say not independent, but one group that is not funded in an indirect way by the police department, if that makes sense. So they have a different way they do everything. We don't. We have a different way that we're going to do what we're going to do. That makes sense. That help answer your question? Okay. I can squeeze in one more. Wait, was there anyone else before this repeater comes? Okay. Yes. Yes.
Am I correct that this is the first ordinance like this in country? Or we are
Yes. Yes. This is the first totally independent, community-driven police accountability ordinance and organization in the entire United States of America. There are some cities that have versions. Yes, give yourself a hand. There are some cities that have versions, but none as independent as we have it, which is interesting because this is, last I checked, is still Chicago. But we are the first of our kind. So please forgive your council representatives and forgive us, because we're going to fumble a couple of times, not on purpose, not intentional to try to hurt anybody, but we are literally building this as we're going forward. But we got some pretty smart folk in the room to do it. Okay, last one.
When you say you are reporting to the community, you mean you are reporting to our representatives, like the aldermen?
So every district council, because of the Open Meeting Act, I'll do this real quick, will have to post its agenda, post their minutes of every single meeting, post what they have voted on or are submitting for recommendations, and they cannot make moves unless the community knows about it prior to them making those moves. So you all will know before things can actually happen, which is why you must come to your monthly district council meetings and commission meetings. Y'all see, and I'm trying to step off stage. So, we good?
Thank you so much. So we might have time for more questions later if you stick around. So, all right, so now to the candidates. So I'm going to try to use my Fitbit for timing. What we're going to do is shoot for 1 minute per question. And again, they got questions in advance. And I'm really trying to leave some time for your questions to the candidates. Okay, so we're starting with Lee. Do you all mind if I call you by first name? Okay. Okay, so the main purpose of this ordinance is to give greater voice to the community in holding police accountable. What is your intention and vision for this role? Will you amplify voices in the community that you do not agree with? And then again, this is the first time that they're coming up. They can have an opportunity to introduce themselves. They'll all have to come up to the mic as a reminder, and shooting for 1 minute per question or under. Okay, thank you.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Lee Bilecki. I live in the Mount Greenwood community. I've been living there since 1995. I raised my family there. I am a retired Chicago police sergeant. I had 27 years of experience, and I am running for the local district council position. To answer the question, first and foremost, as Damon brought up, all of the oversight that's already in place for the police department, this commission really doesn't have any disciplinary power. So we will not be suspending officers. We won't be doing any of that. That's already in place. The key purpose of the ordinance, as outlined, is to build, as Damon said, building stronger connections between the police and the community at the district level, where the community is the true partner in making the neighborhood safer. Luckily, we live in one of the safer communities in the city. They can work with the police. You can work with the police, solve problems, set priorities, collaborating in the development and implementation of community policing initiatives, holding the monthly meetings, as Damon brought up. We will be doing that if we're elected, working with the community to get input on police policies. Pretty much Damon put everything into that perspective. So that pretty much covers it. He took a lot of my answers, so.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Carissa Parker. I am a lifelong resident of the South Side of Chicago. I am currently a site operations manager for a large federally qualified health center on the North Side. I have spent the bulk of my career working in nonprofit, serving Chicago's most vulnerable residents. The 22nd Police District is kind of an anomaly in the city. We do have neighborhoods with polar opposite relationships with the police officer, with the police department, which is why I think that this ordinance was written to have 3 representatives so that each neighborhood could be represented. And so we may not always agree on policing in our communities. I think that one thing that we can agree upon that will be important at these meetings is to create fair spaces, safe spaces for sharing and understanding, but also understanding that we are going to remain focused on the intention of this ordinance, and that is to provide proactive accountability to the police department, whether that has to do with hiring, whether it has to do with training, or whether that has to do with mental health resources for for our police officers. But ultimately, what I think we all want to do who are running for this position is to make sure that the meetings that we have and the opportunities we have with our residents are to create safe spaces so that we can have safe neighborhoods. Thank you.
Carissa's much shorter, so I have to adjust the mic. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Andre Pate. I am a 14-year resident of the 21st Ward. I am a father, a husband of 17 years. My work experience includes 25 years in public service. My current role is a logistics manager with the Cook County Clerk's Office. Community experience includes I'm a Rotarian, as well as a treasurer for my block club, basketball coach, and a youth mentor. Educationally, I hold a master's in public administration and a bachelor's in computer science. As it relates to the question regarding the intentions and the vision for police accountability, I see the role of the council being that we would have to just ensure that police are held accountable when there are incidents of misconduct, making sure that we monitor those issues, that we bring things to the forefront when the discipline is not appropriate, making sure that discipline is appropriate and timely. Thank you.
Good job, everyone. Okay, so next question, and we'll start with Parker. Carissa, have you ever held power to account, such as a powerful person or an institution? How would you use that experience in a district council member role? And again, they had a little bit of feedback on this question. They understand kind of what I'm asking, so let's go from there.
So one of the things I'm most proud of is that I've been able to serve as the chair of the local school council at my alma mater, Morgan Park High School, for the past 12 years. And our biggest responsibility is hiring and evaluating our principal. And so as someone who is elected into that role, it has always been important to me to share, when we evaluate principals, to do that based on some of the feedback that we get from our stakeholders. And so that could be whether I always agree with that or not, or if that has been my experience with the principal. I always think that that was still my responsibility to share the voices of the people who we survey when it's time to do evaluations. But I also spent 15 years at Advocate Trinity Hospital managing our patient advocacy department. And for those of you who know about healthcare, it is one of the most racist and misogynist institutions in this country. And so as a patient advocate, I had to hear about physicians who may have shown some mistreatment towards our patients based on their race, their religion, their sex, their gender identity. And so it was difficult sometimes to have to call physicians on the carpet for their treatment of our patients, but that was my job. And it always gave us an opportunity to evaluate people, to determine whether physicians were a good fit for our community hospital. And so I have the experience, the integrity to make sure that we are speaking truth to power to ensure that the most vulnerable voices are heard. Thank you.
Yeah, in answering this question, I think my biggest experience has been as a employee throughout my years with circuit court, that we would oftentimes have to call department heads to account on various issues. And I think that experience has helped me to understand that it's important to make sure that we have these difficult conversations, that we do it in a way that's both respectful, and it has helped me to become a better listener, and understanding that you have to resolve issues, that you have to hear both sides, that you have to be respectful, and that you have to take a very tactful and caring approach to dealing with issues. Thank you.
So during my career in the police department, I was fortunate enough to work for bosses that were teaching bosses, that taught us the right way to do the job, how to react, how to do things in a positive manner. As far as holding people accountable, co-workers and such, I was also fortunate, because in the end, bad police officers don't really do things around good police officers. If they're going to do their little thing, and obviously we've had many cases of misconduct. I mean, I was detailed at the FBI for a while. To get in there, you have to go through a pretty thorough background check as a task force officer, but I had never been put in a position to do anything anonymously. But I was involved in this investigations during my police career where members of law enforcement were implicated in wrongdoing. And in some of these cases, they were arrested. And in other cases, the subjects resigned due to their level of involvement. So, from that aspect, that's really all I can say on that subject.
Okay, minute goes by really fast, but hopefully we'll get some more flexible time during the audience question and answer. So describe how you have used specific communication tools in the past to engage with your community. In what capacity and to what end? How do you plan to communicate with the community about meetings and other relevant information?
As it relates to communication tools that I've used, as a part of our Rotary Club, we oftentimes communicate through email to set up meetings. We also use flyers. We have various Zoom meetings, texting, video chats, newsletters, so on and so forth. And I plan to use, I would hope to use similar tools. I would also like to see us have a website of sorts that we could use to communicate, the community can use to communicate their concerns, and also receive assistance from local officials in terms of resources and reaching out to individuals within the community.
So over the years, the last 4 years, communication is important. And that's what the community needs to do. We need to communicate with each other, especially if we're in the council position. During my career as a police officer, again, I said when we would engage community members, times people are in a high stress, high trauma situation, it is important to try and de-escalate that situation. And as a local person, I commute through social media in person. Of course, if elected, as Damon said, we're going to have the monthly meetings, and we use as many ways as we can. Social media, local organizations, churches, email notifications, and monthly or bi-monthly meetings. I think more than one meeting a month would be something that would be beneficial. So that's how I would communicate.
So one of the things I sought to do as chair of the local school council at Morgan Park High School was to change the narrative of our students at our school. And so I'm a busybody. So outside of working, outside of being on the LSC, I also have helped found three nonprofits that do work across the south side of Chicago. So in those capacities, I've been able to build relationships not only on the south side, not only in the 22nd Police District, but across the city. So we have used every tactic that we could to help share the stories of our students. We've used the Beverly Review, we've used BAPA, we've called every news station out. We've partnered with local organizations and businesses to help share our story. So I hope to use those same relationships to carry out the work of the district councils. I believe that relationships are really important. We have so many amazing groups already in the 19th Ward, in the 21st Ward, the 18th Ward, the 9th Ward, all of whom have elected officials, and all of the candidates. I actually know all of the candidates running for each of those aldermanic roles in the city. So I am confident that I'm able to reach out to people and use those vehicles to reach all of the residents so that they know about our meetings. What they also said, having a website, having a listserv, and using technology so that we can reach people where they are.
Okay, so we'll start with Lee this time. Why are you passionate about this new ordinance, elected office? If someone approached you to run for this elected position, why did they think you would be a prime candidate for voicing strategies to hold our policing system accountable?
Well, to be honest, once the ordinance was enacted, is when I decided to run for the position. So I read it, and that's why, as being a retired police officer, I have expertise in narcotics investigations, gang investigations, school resource. I was a school resource sergeant. I understand what the root causes of violence are in the city, and I think that that's going to go a long way in improving police community relations. I was very fortunate to work for some bosses. Former Superintendent Klein was one of my mentors, and he came up with innovative strategies that help lower and reduce crime, as well as the homicide rate was down around into the 400s. I mean, obviously now we're up into the 700s. late 80s, we were up in almost 1,000. So, Superintendent Hillard and Superintendent Klein, they employed strategies that allowed us to lower the crime rate. The shootings went down, the homicides went down, gang enforcement was strong. And those are part of the root causes in the community. These kids need more support.
So the first part of this question was, why are you passionate about this new ordinance? So I think the passing of this ordinance is, and of itself, a testament to the power of community and people uniting to make Chicago a better place. And I love the city of Chicago, and that's evident by the work that I have done over the past 20 years as a resident of this city. I had the pleasure of speaking with someone earlier this week who helped write the ordinance, and I wanted to hear from someone who was a part of that process so I could understand what it was that they were looking for and what they wanted us to do once we were elected into this position. And really what they are looking for is someone who isn't on polar ends of the spectrum, right? They want someone who isn't so far to the left that they are so anti-police that they want to abolish the police, or so far to the other side that they're blinded by their loyalty to the police department. So I think that I was approached about this position by several different people, but I think it was because I'm known for my integrity, and I'm also known for speaking out for people who may not have a voice.
So to the question, why am I passionate about the new ordinance? I generally have a passion for public service first and foremost. I also saw that there was a need within our community for us to really work together to bridge the gap between the police and the community. And I really saw its potential, and I wanted to be a part of that process. I did have a friend and a mentor whom I worked with for 20 plus years reach out to me, and he thought that I would be a good candidate for this position because of my concern for the community. He thought that I would be able to make judgment calls objectively, and he also said that that my ability cited my ability to work with various individuals throughout the years, and he said that also he thought that I would also display compassion and I would be diplomatic in this role. So
Okay, so the war on crime is the highest casualty, most expensive, and longest lasting war in American history. Evidence tells us policing has very limited capacity to make communities safer. What community-based alternatives to addressing harms and preventing trauma can we implement in the 22nd District to move resources away from policing and the carceral system?
Is it me? Okay, I think so. Okay. All right. So many different ways that our community can help prevent some of the issues that we're seeing in our society. I am a strong supporter of public schools. We have awesome schools in our community. So as a community together, we can pour our resources and time into our schools. You don't have to have a student at your local school to be engaged in it and to help advocate for resources and equity in education. We also know that there's missing pieces to mental health in the city of Chicago. There are so many groups working on treatment, not trauma initiatives. Those are things that we can look at, but these are long-term solutions. Some of them we can start today, but it's gonna take a while before these things are implemented. But one of the things that we can do right away and also hold police accountable is ensure that every supervisor on the Chicago Police Department is trained in crisis situations and working in those. From what I understand, sometimes on a shift there may be no police officers who are able to respond or do crisis response when there are calls. And so it is incumbent upon us to ensure that supervisors, from sergeants to lieutenants to captains to commanders, they can get up out of their office and they can go out on the streets and they can help and be examples and lead by example and being trained in crisis intervention practices. Thank you.
So as Carissa pointed out, there are a number of community-based alternatives that we could implement in the 22nd district. I think that resource hubs would definitely be helpful, where people can come and find the various resources that they need. Job training programs would be helpful. Substance abuse and support programs, trauma support programs, more mental health resources, and various youth programs, I think would all be helpful alternatives. Thank you.
So the war on crime is an interesting term. I prefer the term war on communities. I disagree. Policing has a limited capacity to make a difference. When the community and the police work together, the results are positive. I've been involved in investigations that showed that to be absolutely true. Providing positive programs for young people and working to eliminate the us versus them mentality can go a long way to preventing trauma. As I mentioned the root causes earlier, the city as a whole has failed unserved communities, starting with Mayor Emanuel, finishing up with Mayor Lightfoot. 2 vans to respond to mental health situations for 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday during the day, falls way short to helping people that are in mental crisis. The rest of that falls on the fire department and the police department. And as my friend Jim will tell you, that the fire department response to mental health crisis will not go unless a police officer accompanies them. So to finish up, if I'm elected, and with whomever else is elected to the district council, we'll have to form a consensus to work with both the community and the police.
Okay. Will you want to be nominated to serve on the commission? So, as you remember, there will be 7 leadership roles for the commission out of the district, and they'll be nominated. So if so, what attributes will qualify you to serve in that leadership role? If not, what attributes will you seek in others who might serve in that role? So Andre, you start.
I have not given any thought whatsoever to serving on the commission, to be honest. This has been a huge undertaking for me. So, but as it relates to the attributes that I'd seek for the nominees, you want someone that's community focused and driven by the needs of the community. We want someone who can serve and that can serve objectively and hear the concerns of everyone. We also want someone that is well-rounded as it relates to all the issues and concerns that we have in our community. And we want to have people that are results-driven. And those are the attributes I would seek.
Yeah, I definitely haven't even thought about being nominated to serve on the commission. So one day at a time. I'm actually looking forward to being a part of the district councils and being the body known as the group that made all of the mistakes, so that we can help the next batch of district councilors who seek election in 4 years. And then maybe I could join Damon and help doing some training with district councils at that point. There's a little plug there for you. But when we I think what is really important about district councils is that we nominate these people to the commissions because they have so much influence over what happens in policing. So the people that you elect for these district councils are really important, if for nothing else but for that, right? So we want to make sure that there are people in place who will select people who are fair, who are not, who don't have any allegiance to any entity. People have proven track records of community engagement, and public service would be important to me.
My answer is going to be real short. After listening to Damon talk, I'm like, I prefer not to be nominated at that time. But again, to echo what Carissa said, fairness and understanding from everybody who ends up as a commissioner involved, that's all I would expect. And cooperation, we have to all cooperate together. So That'd be it for me, but no, thank you. I don't want to be.
Okay. A state report shows that of the more than 300,000 stops made by Chicago police in 2020, about 62% of the drivers stopped were Black, while only 10% were white. Yet Chicago's population is only 30% Black. This is a prime example of systemic and institutional racism. How do you envision this office might chip away at the racism in policing? And we'll start with Lee.
I hope I got enough time for this answer. So her report was from 2020. I found the Illinois Department of Transportation report for 21, and the numbers are pretty close to being the same thing. Ironically, out of all of those traffic stops, 95% resulted in verbal warnings. That means there was no ticket issue, whether it was for a moving violation, for an equipment violation. All the stops were equally in the 30% percentile range for moving violations, equipment problems, and licensing and registration issues. One issue not being addressed is the homicide rate in the communities. As of and this goes towards the traffic stops. The communities that are suffering the most from the violence are communities of color. Since 2018, as of yesterday morning, over almost 2,700 victims of homicide were African American. Just under 199 were white, 439 Hispanic. In the time period 2017 to 2021, there were 154 officer-involved shootings, resulting in 35 fatalities. That comes from comes right from COPA's annual report. So when we talk about traffic stops and social justice and unfairness and everything, that's why I passed out those questionnaires. It's up to you to tell me what you think would be a better strategy in communities that are suffering from all of this violence, because the violence is real. So how do you want the police to stop it? That would be the first thing. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a tough topic, but Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the United States of America. And so unfortunately, what happens is when crimes are committed, they are usually committed in neighborhoods, and they're committed upon people who look alike, right? And so when officers are patrolling these neighborhoods and these officers do not represent or look like the communities that they patrol, then this is where you see these police stops happening more often. I'm pretty sure if officers knew their residents, if they knew the people that lived in the neighborhood, they could be a little bit more, have a little bit more discernment when they pulled people over. But I also think that the Chicago Police Department has a culture that encourages traffic stops, right? They encourage the counting of stopping people and getting guns. These traffic stops show their productivity. So one of the ways that the district council can have some input and do some proactive accountability measures is look at how they measure productivity. Does it have to be they stop this many people every day? What are the reasonings? Who are we hiring into these positions, and why are they going into neighborhoods targeting specific people? So when I think about proactive police accountability, it starts at the beginning with who we hire. It starts with what the practices are. It starts with how we reward officers, how we promote officers within. And so when you look at those systemic issues, I think that you can get to the root cause of why so many stops are happening in Black and brown neighborhoods.
So honestly, when I read over this question, I was just a little unnerved that my son is 15, and I've just he started teaching him to drive, and with some of the events that have happened across the country, it is just scary, the thought of what the possibility could be if he's pulled over and things escalate. So with that in mind, as we work to address racism in policing, I think we must first, be honest and say that, there's a challenge, because racism is something that is in a person's head and in their heart. And there are no policies that really can address those things. But some of the things that we have to do is just try to, as the council, is to try to consistently identify those issues. We have to review the concerns and complaints of the residents, and we have to hold police accountable when we find those that they are complicit in some of those violations.
Okay. What are your current and past relationships with police officers? In other words, describe your conflicts of interest in doing this job. Will your loyalties to police compromise your ability to do the job taxpayers are asking you to do? We'll start with, Carissa.
Trying to follow the pattern here. Okay, so my son is a Chicago police officer, and I am very proud of that. My son is an amazing person. But I'm a helicopter mom, right? So I've been a football mom, a track mom, a volleyball mom, a softball mom. So I support everything that my children do because I want them to always feel loved. I want them to feel supported. I always want them to do their best. And I always want them to do the right thing. And so I'm going to be a helicopter with my son, with my daughter who teaches autistic children, with my daughter who's away at school on a full academic scholarship at Xavier University, and with my 16-year-old who is ranked number 7 in her class at Morgan Park High School with the 4.7 GPA. So I've heard a lot about my son being a police officer, but I am an awesome mom. So I am going to support him, and I'm going to be proud of what he does. So my loyalty is to my children. My loyalty is not to the Chicago Police Department. His profession does not negate the fact that I'm a Black mother who has Black children and Black family members who have not always had positive interactions with the police department. I am about doing the right thing. I know some amazing police officers. So my loyalty is always to people doing the right thing and for them doing their best.
Current and past relationships to police officers that I have, a number of my friends are police officers. There are some distant family members, but there's a gentleman who actually takes my son to school on the north side every single day and takes him home, and he's a police sergeant. So I have many close friends that are police officers. Will that affect my ability to be objective? The answer is simply no. That the friends and family members that I have that are police officers, they share the same concern that I have for the community. So we see and have the same vision for policing in our communities, so it will not affect that.
Well, since you all know that I was a police officer, sure, I've got some friends that are still police officers. But as a retired sergeant, I still maintain contact with friends. Also through my charity work with the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation. For those of you who don't know what the foundation does, we support families of officers who are killed in the line of duty or catastrophically injured. But it goes way beyond that. If somebody becomes ill, the memorial steps in. If there's a family member that loses their life, the memorial steps in for retired police officers. I also am a peer support member for the Employee Assistance Program for the Chicago Police Department as a volunteer. So when an officer may be having trouble, let's face it, people see trauma every day. The average person, I believe they said, experiences 4 traumatic incidents in their life. A Chicago police officer could experience that in a week. Hundreds of traumatic incidents. That means going to shootings. That means having to encounter loved ones on the street. I've had to go tell families that their loved one was killed as a result of gun violence. It's not a pretty picture. So as a member of as a peer support member, I take that work very seriously. But my loyalty is to the community. I grew up on the West Side. As Carissa said, being a devoted parent, my kids my son was in Marines. He was there in Iraq, okay, for the invasion of Iraq. And he came home damaged for a while from the trauma that he saw as a result of the war in Iraq. He did 2 tours over there during the heavy fighting. My daughter's a teacher at Mount Greenwood School. My son's a chiropractor over here across the street from the library. So if anybody's back is sore, feel free to go in there and drop my name. And Ryan Valecki, yes, he will. As a matter of fact, Mary Jo from BAPA goes to him. And my other daughter is a shipping manager for Breakthrough Beverage, so she's doing pretty well as well. So I'm lucky. I did the same thing she did, run around baseball games. I coached baseball for 16 years here at Marinette Park and in Midway Baseball and hockey, coach hockey, basketball, and Anna's saying that's enough.
Like hearing about the family, but okay. Listen, I have some boring questions at the end. I'd really like to just open it up to you guys, and then if they want to, if you all want to, add a little closing remarks at the end, that would be fine. Do people have questions? You do? Okay. Why don't you? I'd actually prefer that people come up here and do the questions, so then you can be on the video and the audio. Oh, no? Okay. Then I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it. Yeah. Okay, so excessive force, question about excessive. Yeah. 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 So for the people online, I think I understand the question, which is just like how does excessive force, complaints about them particularly in their current position, in their past, yeah, how could it cloud or influence their position as advocating for the community? Okay. All right. If any, yeah, go ahead.
It's me. They saw the reader. They read Jim Daly. They know all about it. It's okay. I was ready for it. So during my career, according to the Invisible Institute, okay, they put on there that I have 26 allegations of misconduct. According to their statistics, that's more than 79%. This is going to be longer than a minute, by the way. So this is because this is an important topic. So as it shows me with one use of force complaint, that's a tactical response report. That's when I was actually a victim of a crime. But because I was off duty at the White Sox game, some gang members recognized us and were saying threatening things. We went downstairs to avoid them. They came down there and assaulted me, did a verbal assault. I had the subject arrested. So that's where the tactical response report is. It said I had 5 civilian compliments. Well, let me tell you about Invisible Institute. First of all, I'm not 66, I'm 65. They've got me at 66. They've got me down for 0 major awards. Actually, Clarissa, could you grab my folder there, please, on the floor? Would you please? It's on the other side. They got me down for 22. This is why this site is such a fallacy, because journalists use it to, in the Invisible Institute, everybody knows that they were part of the whole Laquan McDonald investigation, which is a whole nother story. But according to them, I did have 0 sustained. Many of my, a lot of my complaints were unfounded or I was exonerated. The rest were not sustained. They had me down for 22 honorable mentions. And I'll let you guys, I've got extras here if you want one. My complimentary history over my 27-year career was in 2004, I received a crime reduction ribbon, a crime reduction award in 2009, Attendance recognition, that's really a nothing. 12 complimentary letters, they have me down for 5. 12 complimentary letters, 8 department commendations. We won't talk about the physical fitness since I put on a few pounds. I had 121 honorable mentions. I had 3 joint operations awards. That's when I was working as a gang task force officer with the FBI. I had 1 life-saving award. I was put in for more. They don't put that down. I carried an 80-year-old woman out of a building that was burning. They didn't give us anything for that, so whatever. My satisfaction was from saving that lady. She didn't want to leave. She was 80 years old. She was in her 80s, and the window blew up from the fire, and I was like, lady, we're going over the shoulder, out the door. She went out over the shoulder. I had a special commendation award for guns recovered. I had most guns recovered if you had over 100 recoveries in a year, which I did, Unit Meritorious Performance Award when we were in the 11th District for crime reduction. So as you can see, when you read something like this, it doesn't tell the whole tale. They also have me down for a conduct unbecoming off duty. That's Invisible Institute. When you want to paint a picture, a negative picture of a police officer, you don't use all the paint. So I was coming home on Christmas Eve with my wife and kids, and we were rear-ended in a hit and run. We just got a cell phone. My wife called it in. We followed at a safe distance. Since we had the children, the car kept going. Broke down by Midway Airport. The subject got out of the car, tried to run. Just as the squad car was pulling up, because my wife had been on the phone with the dispatcher, and this person made a complaint against me saying I used excessive force. All I did was detain the person as the squad car pulled up. But when somebody makes a allegation, the department takes it and we make it. The guy from the Reader, Jim Daly, he took a couple snippets from a complaint. I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you've seen it, where he didn't use the whole, he just took little pieces. One was a verbal abuse. Actually, I'm going to tell you something else that's not in this. I had more complaints. Back when I was in the 11th District, we worked with the community. As I talked to you about working with the community, we worked with a building owner who had 2 buildings that were taken over by the Black Soul Street Gang, and were selling, it was for their heroin operation, okay? So their strategy was to, you getting all this on video? Oh, but in any case, you get the picture, okay? So we found out, I'm just gonna finish up here with that. They tried to kill one of the gang members. He came in and said that they were told to make complaints because we were so effective in our enforcement strategy. So it was OPS at the time. OPS came in with their supervisor, investigator, and they had found his complaints and took them on the system.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody in the room has a lot of compassion for all of the police officers that are doing their job and just the trauma that they're experiencing. I cannot imagine what people are going through on a day-to-day basis. And I think that maybe what we're talking about here is a system-wide problem, and we're talking about kind of overall maybe policies. We are talking about policies that could potentially alter people's well-being. Yeah, Bill, could you come up to the microphone? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know how to paraphrase that question, but whoever wants to respond to that can.
Yeah, I don't know that I can respond to all of that. One of the things I've been doing over the past several months is ensuring that read the entire consent decree, that I read the entire ordinance for district councils. And I have also been reading books on community policing. And I actually took a law enforcement class as part of my master's program that I'm in right now. And really, and bought an amazing book about policing, just so that I could really understand some of the practices and the culture of policing from a policeman's standpoint, which this textbook was written for. So I'm really trying to educate myself on this as I entrench myself in this, because I'm committed to doing a good job if I'm elected. But you talked about, why this happens and how we tackle it. I think one of the things that district councils have to do is look at restorative justice from different lenses. And so that means when we have people who come back and who are re-entering into our communities who have been incarcerated, how we connect with each other as neighbors from Mount Greenwood and over in Washington Heights, but also as residents and police officers, and just acknowledging that there has been harm done. So we can all say that we know good police officers, but we know that they aren't the reason why, people feel the way they do about policing and police officers, because communities have been harmed and they have been hurt. So part of that restorative justice has to be that acknowledgement of harm that has been happened. So we need people to be open to that on both sides and listening to both sides. And when you create safe spaces, then for people to have those kind of conversations, then we want to make sure that people are listening to understand both sides.
Oh, did you have a question? Do you want to approach the mic? Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Ideally, I'm going to go ahead and hold the mic over there, and 30 seconds max for the question.
Hello, my name is Doyle Landry. My family integrated the 19th Ward. And when I say integrated, like first Black family. So when I hear, I'm paraphrasing because those of you who were in the room at BAPA last week, I'm still about accountability within the race, because we're 46 days in. And my question to all three candidates is, what is your individual definition of accountability? Because at a house in the 22nd district at 94th and Wallace, there's still a 9-year-old who has not been accounted for, and the bullets came from within the house. So with that being said, as a award-winning investigative journalist, of which I am, and again, I'm the first African-American to deliver the Beverly Review. So a lot of the judges who were once lawyers, I delivered the Beverly Review to their homes. And so we have these conversations about accountability. What is your individual definition of accountability?
You guys just want to pass the mic?
Sure. So I think for me, it's simple. I think that just making sure that people are responsible and held accountable for their actions, regardless of what their position or status is in life. I think, that we have to make sure that not only that police are held accountable, but people who commit crimes within our communities are held accountable. We also need to make sure that we keep in mind that our focus is to, like Carissa mentioned, restorative justice, and making sure that we are not to arrest people and then have people just come back out and commit crimes repeatedly. So I think that we just have to kind of really hold people accountable, but really look at the process and look at the outcome of the process as well.
Yeah, I agree with the accountability is very important. And as far as restorative justice goes, I believe in restorative justice. Like I said, Andre and Chris have brought it back. Depending on what these people have been convicted of, I mean, if you got a mass murderer, obviously we're not going to put them into a plumbing program. But I mean, you're going to have people that are going into the system that are going to come out of the system. And I got a perfect example of it that, need to, become part of the community, useful parts of the community. Years ago, I was a manager. Before I was a police officer, I was assistant manager for Jewel on the north side. And I had a young man working for me. He was just a year younger, but he ended up having a brother who was involved in a gang, street gang up in the Wrigley Field neighborhood. He was caught by a rival gang, beaten almost to death. This young man went out, committed murder, shot the guy in the head that beat up his brother. Part of the gang. It was a gang thing. Went away, 40 years in the penitentiary. He was a model prisoner, came out after 20 years. He was a leather craftsman after that. As a matter of fact, I plan on reaching out to him once this election is over, if I'm elected, to try and get him, because the root cause of violence is we have to work with these young kids. When I was a school resource sergeant, you've seen it in the schools all the time. I mean, they see violence in the home, they see violence on the street, they're subject to trauma, and there aren't enough resources, to be honest with you. And I don't know if we're ever going to have enough resources for the folks that are coming out of prison, and as well as the children that are victims of these crimes, or victims of what they see.
Yeah, I'll keep it simple. I think accountability is just acknowledging that there's consequences for your behavior.
Great. Any other questions?
It's not for the room, but where are the other?
Oh, I did say that I was going to give an overview of the other candidates. I do not have time for that. They did not show up. I do not have time to sit there and look up the other candidates and give an overview. There are 2 other candidates. They did not respond to me at all. So that's all.
Well, that's the perfect segue to my question, okay? Which is, and Lee, originally I was going to ask it just to you, but I'm going to ask it to all of you because I have been to now 2 of these forums. I've done my reading. The other 2 candidates didn't even answer a questionnaire that was given to them, okay? The other 2 candidates are white males from Mount Greenwood. One of the things we need is our whole district represented. From what I see, we have a diversity here. We have a diversity of the 19th ward, the 9th ward, the 21st ward. We have a diversity of color and sex. I'm wondering if you would all support one another. Because I don't think we need 3 men, white men from the 19th, or from Mount Greenwood, even not just the 19th ward, but from Mount Greenwood, to represent us in the district. So will you each support each other, because you've been out on the campaign trail, you have diverse views, and I think you have diverse coalitions, and clearly have shown you can work together.
Yeah, you vote for 3 candidates. You don't have to vote for 3. You don't have to vote for anybody. But very quick response to that, and then hopefully we get one more question in after that.
Yeah, for sure. I echo those sentiments. These are the only 2 people that I have seen even show some effort in terms of campaigning and trying to reach voters.
Yeah, I mean, we don't control the voters in the community. I'm running. I'll work with whoever is elected. If it's Carissa and Andre, I'll be more than happy to work with them. Again, though, I don't control. I understand what your question means, but again, well, they know about her. Andre, they haven't seen over in Mount Greenwood yet, but they know her. That's for sure. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to the idea. I had a chance to work somewhat with Carissa, and to be honest, I just kind of fell in love with her passion, and she's someone I've definitely been supportive of. And I've met Lee a couple of weeks ago, so I think it's a really good group.
One more question.
If you get elected, a major concern of mine is when police make, do these stops, which you said 52% or 60%. Well, anyways, they're mostly black people that get stopped. And then, remember when Officer French was killed after a stop? Because they made them get out of the car. Why in the world are people made to get out of the car? It's also why Tyree Nichols died. Why?
And my understanding is just that most interactions like that that are fatal happen at stops like that. So I don't know if you have any comments to that. Okay. Quickly, and then...
That particular night, as I said, I'm a peer support member for the police department. She was shot, I believe it was at 9:08. I was at University, the hospital, and I stood out there and I comforted officers who were on the ground crying. I walked around there, I was there till into the late hours of the morning. I actually know her mother through my peer support. Trauma is real. Trauma isn't just real for victims of crimes. It's not just real for criminals. It's also real for police officers. And when they see this trauma, it's devastating. I sat there, I worked awake, and I sat there with officers. I cried with officers. I hugged officers. And as we got to realize, and I mean, as a gentleman brought up back there, I want to address that thing about the lawsuits. Yeah, there's been $500 million in lawsuits paid out. Just recently, there was an article where the city is offering $1 million to a family of a shooting that was ruled justified by COPA, by the state's attorney's office, and they're going to give these people $1 million. Why? If it was a justified shooting, why are we paying it out? I talked to a woman that used to work in the corporation council who left because they said that they do settlement assessments and say it's cheaper to settle these cases than it is to fight them in court, because the end result could be that they would have to pay out more. So I'm not a fan of that either.
I mean, that's America in general. Yeah. We're at time. If anyone has any final remarks that they feel absolutely they need to say, yes.
To Officer Bilecki, retired. I'm sure a lot of the members, family members, would prefer to have their loved one as opposed to a payout. Also, the other thing you said was in regards to the Invisible Institute. You said they were involved with the murder of Laquan McDonald. They made a comment about it.
Organization is run by Jamie Calvin.
I'm familiar with him.
Once the video came out that, they were part of it, they got it out.
And you have a problem. And you have a problem with that.
No, I have a problem with they don't post the information on their citizen data project.
They also posted police officers going into a restaurant and stealing the video, as well as deleting.
I don't know if that happened.
Well, I talked to Jamie as well.
Are you talking about at
The
the Burger King?
Burger King.
Yeah, well, that's an accusation that was never confirmed, and wasn't confirmed by the owners of the Burger King, if I recall.
That's not true.
Okay, very quick.
My name is Denise Jones. I work for the Cook County Sheriff Department. I've been at the Sheriff Department for over 20 years. I've had the opportunity to move around. I've had the opportunity to meet some people who we may call rookies. And it's kind of difficult for me to adjust sometimes with their vision and the direction that they're going within a department. And I would just kind of share with you that We are not in the same, as a veteran at the county department, we're not thinking the same. We're kind of used to the old regime. And if you're elected, Lee, I would kind of advise you, or I don't know, I'm for lack of a better term, to kind of think, have a more open mind and kind of think with the people that you're working with, because the district that you all are running for, as well as the city of Chicago, they have a different vision. And the people that we're trying to elect should line up with that vision. Just my advice to you is to just have an open mind. We cannot go by the old regime. We cannot move forward with the past and our past experiences, because I've experienced a whole lot that I can't utilize anymore with the vision of the Cook County Sheriff Department. I'm in the jail. I'm in the corrections. Yes. Any false complaints? No. 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 With the old, again, old regime, period. I'm 20 years in. We cannot do the same things and have the same mindset for 20 years ago. We have to have a different mindset and line up with the vision that the city is going with today. And that's all, that's just my little advice for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much for participating, and thank you to our candidates. I think we all agree that we want everybody to be happier and healthier, and we just have to find a way to do that. And that sounds really Pollyanna, but it's the reality. That's us. Yeah, and the community to have a voice in how a very large part of our budget, or city budget, goes to. All right, thank you so much. We have to be out of here by 9, but appreciate everybody coming. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
And folks, if you wouldn't mind, either leave those surveys on the chair, or you can put them up there.
I just love it. Last year, and I was there 15 years. Where'd you work? Of course they do. Yeah, I've been working at Trinity. I've been looking at Axel and all the growth they're doing. And you know Reverend Cindy? Yeah, I grew up in the church in North Park, and I spent very yeah, well, sometimes. Advocate events. Yeah, thank you. Good for you.
That's the last candidate's forum. That's all right. You might need it. Does anybody have these?
Very. Yes, ma'am.